Cool. So yeah, good afternoon. Great to be here. Ben Ryall, one of the Edge strategy managers in Meta. I don't know if the folks at the back know the screens on stage aren't showing the slides, but that's okay. So here to talk a little bit about our Edge, how that's evolving for kind of different workloads we're seeing, and really talk about our peering policy and any other kind of questions people want to talk through. So right now, when we think about the Meta product family, we're serving, in excess of 3.5 billion people who are choosing to use one of our products at least once a day. And to serve those people and to scale that infrastructure, we need lots of peering, lots of compute. So we've got in excess of kind of 7,000 M&As deployed inside partner networks, and we'll talk about what those mean a bit more. Backing that up, we have 90 edge markets, edge pops. That's where we run our backbone. That's where we run peering. And then to support all of that, we have 32 origin data centers. They're our brick and mortar sites, heavily in the US, and that's where we hold all the cat pictures. When we think about that infrastructure in more detail, so the data centers, they're the kind of 100 megawatt plus facilities. They're the ones, if you look at the open compute, we publish the custom hardware we're using in those sites. And they're not carrier neutral, they're our facilities. There's no peering, there's no interconnection in those. And as I say, they hold all of the cat pictures and they do all of the replication between those data centers. Edge metros, these data centers connect those edge metros on our global backbone. And that is now where we're starting to put localized infrastructure. That's essentially doing caching, that's holding popular content local to that area. And that's where we connect to internet exchanges. That's where we're also able to connect directly to networks. No persistent storage, as it says on the slide. Then finally, most importantly, we also have our Meta network appliances, our M&As. These live inside partners' networks and allow us to hold the most popular content closer to the users. So primarily think popular videos, pictures, and we might put multiple M&As inside a partner's network that also allows us then to build kind of resilient topologies. But our workloads are changing. We think about like Instagram, you think about Facebook. Historically, they've been pictures, transition to videos in time, started as text, but it's primarily delivering that content to the user. Predictable traffic patterns and solved with storage. As we think about AI experiences, as we think about this kind of unique content that's been generated, we need more real-time inference at the edge. That's delivered by GPUs rather than storage, and the interactions become more latency sensitive. And when we think about these workloads and when we think about this traffic, actually the growth we're seeing here is the DC to DC traffic rather than DC to POP traffic. And that's where you think you've got all these GPU farms, and they're all needing to communicate and share that data with each other. Versus, a user interacting with AI. We had this joke internally recently, users are only good at watching one video at a time. Users can't multitask and watch multiple videos, and that translates to how we see the traffic growing. And we're reshaping our kind of network topology to support this. So we're thinking about elastic edge, so real modular building blocks for when we're thinking about building our edge metros, scaling that up or down based on the demand of that metro, number of people we're serving translates to volume of traffic, keeping the peering and CDN and compute layers, and then thinking about a really high capacity fabric connecting all that together. And so, we want these module building blocks so we can roll this out globally and have those supportable in a standard way by our operations teams. We're also then thinking about getting closer to users. We talked about latency being important. We're in tier 1, we're in tier 2 cities. Now actually smaller cities where maybe there isn't a peering ecosystem are becoming more important to us. So we're thinking about smaller edge infrastructure, hence that modular design. We're thinking about maybe we're needing to form new peering hubs where they don't exist right now, and really sending that infrastructure closer to people outside of the big hubs. A few programs we do support that. We have a grant program with the Internet Society, so when we're thinking about new interconnection hubs, we want to build infrastructure that's accessible to everybody, and so ISOC is one way we get IXs formed through their programs. That means they're neutral IXs that everybody can leverage rather than meta IXs, which might send the wrong signal. And then we're thinking about compute locality as well. GPUs at the edge, again, closer to users, bringing that AI inference closer to users, reduces backbone consumption, and having that infrastructure just delivers that better experience when it's closer and lower latency. And when we think about that kind of edge evolution further in a bit more detail, today we have the AI workloads in our data centers, it's 32 sites. They're generally in further away places. We have 3 in Europe, we have 1 in Asia, and the rest are in North America. And so that's where the GPUs live right now. We've previously put GPUs in our edge to kind of support some of our gaming products, and that's worked well at improving the kind of QoE and the experience they delivered. And so we're following that strategy by putting inference workloads in selected edge pops. That's again with this idea of boosting the experience, the quality for those emerging AI workloads. And you'll hear us talk about this a lot for quality. We want to make sure that if people are choosing to use our products, then they get the best experience possible. Doesn't mean, though, our M&As, our meta network appliances, those kind of in-network caches, they're still really important. They're not going away. And for the popular apps right now and for the popular content, they're a really important tool for us to be able to deliver the bulk of that user traffic and that user-generated content to people requesting it. So you've heard me say this lots of times, we are solving efficiency, we are solving QoE. We're trying to be good partners here to our, our network operators. We're trying to reduce backhaul demands, these M&As, when we deploy those inside operators' networks. They might be reducing international capacity, they might be reducing domestic capacity, and also serving under failure. Might also therefore help to avoid or defer CapEx or OpEx. Less backbone means you can invest that elsewhere. And simplified interconnection, we want to make sure that as well as the M&As, we still have that direct peering opportunity, either on a PNI, a kind of private network interconnect, or at an internet exchange. As well as benefiting partners, we also want to make sure that users get those benefits as well. So lower latency means, faster experiences, better performance. Having those M&As closer is going to deliver those cat pictures and those cat reels that everyone's watching faster with fewer hops, and delivering this successfully under failure as well. Having those multiple M&As, multiple peerings means if something and when something fails, we can continue delivering that consistent quality that users get kind of experience and want. Relationships are still really important with our partners, and we want, all networks of all sizes to be able to have a peering relationship with Meta. We have an ISP strategy been rolling out over kind of the last 12 months. We're upgrading ISP capacity to make sure we have a minimum amount there. We have a set rules that when we reach a certain percentage of traffic, that we make sure we upgrade further. We're targeting multiple ISPs in a metro, meaning we have that resilience piece again, because we know things fail and we're building for that failure. We connect the IXs not only with our global backbone, the 32934 AS, but if you look in PeeringDB, you'll see Meta actually has 2 ASs, and we also connect our M&As to internet exchanges in some locations to help ecosystem growth, and that's using the 63293 AS. For PNIs, talked about supporting those, we're generally leaning towards 100 gig or 400 gig. For 100 gig, we do support LR1 and LR4. And so really as networks kind of peer us, you might start off IX peering, you might evolve that through to PNIs in the market, you then might evolve that to PNIs in multiple markets where that makes sense and where we're building our infrastructure out. Why it matters to us, we want to maximize the opportunity to peer. We're lucky that people who choose to use our apps, they create traffic from the biggest networks down to the smallest networks, and we want to give all those network operators a chance to have that direct relationship with us. Want to make sure it's scalable and affordable and effective for those big and small networks, and also making sure we're delivering that good experience in a secure fashion. So we're on these internet exchanges, we do the PNIs, and as part of also the IXP policy, we're moving away from root server peering, but have built tools we're going to talk about for users to manage their own kind of peering sessions. When we think about those traffic flows right now, you can see kind of the blue lines here. So we've got our metadata center in kind of the top right. You've got our global backbone, that's indicated by the Meta cloud. And then from there, we've got our edge POPs. In those edge POPs, you may connect to us, as we talked about in peering. You might connect to us over an M&A and IXP. You might even go via transit, depending on what your network setup is. But you can see the blue lines here follow to the users through the operator's network, so the CSP, where the M&As are deployed, and then the people using the products on the left side of this chart. So really, users always connect to either M&As or edge sites, and it's only the edge sites that connect back to our origin data centers. These kind of programs are running, all optional, but they do deliver a bunch of benefits to our network partners. It allows us to defer and avoid CapEx like we've talked about. Localizing this traffic might save domestic backbone upgrades, might save international upgrades. But at the same time, we know users want that good quality experience, so the shorter path of the content, having that M&A in the network might mean that content is just one hop away from a user, and that's going to deliver kind of a better experience. And then these better experiences, users will move around ISPs if they can get the best experience, and it's something we see in all these markets. And when we talk about this infrastructure, it's the whole Meta product family. So talked about pictures and videos, but that also includes WhatsApp. That also includes Threads. So, the Meta CDN we're talking about here delivers the whole product family. And M&A remains core. So where you see us deploying these M&As at internet exchanges, for example, that's because it might not be a market big enough yet for us to deploy a full backbone connected POP. However, we do want to help that ecosystem grow, particularly in kind of developing markets. I primarily look after Africa, and so for those markets where we don't want to build a full edge metro yet, we deploy one of these M&As on the internet exchange, and we help serve those smaller networks, so everyone still gets that direct relationship. With all of this, through the grant of the Internet Society you talked about, we are kind of committed to having this open internet, and it's something that we have as a core value in our team. We want ecosystems that are built for everyone. This is why we're building neutral infrastructure. It's like to Africa, which is the subsea cable we built around the Africa continent. It's a consortium cable, so it's open to multiple parties. That wasn't a closed cable. And then having our open peering policy, that means multiple networks of multiple sides can connect to us. And investing in all of this infrastructure at scale, which benefits the whole ecosystem. How to peer with Meta? I don't know. Put your hand up if you peer in here and you're a network operator. There's a small handful. If you don't peer with us already and you'd like to peer, a few really easy steps to this. One, get ready. Have and maintain a peering DB record. If you've not seen peering DB, it's kind of a non-profit database of networks, internet exchanges, data centers. But the key part here really is maintain that peering DB record as well as having one. For example, make sure that your max prefix and the prefixes you announce are up to date there, because networks like us use automation to take that data in to then update our max prefix and our prefix lists and those kind of systems. You can then request a session using your PeeringDB login by going to meta.com/peering. Sign in with your PeeringDB credentials. It is important to us that it wasn't tied to kind of a Facebook login or similar there. And you can see the status of sessions, and then you can make requests for new sessions. Those requests actually hit an automated workflow, which will do the analysis on how much traffic you've got, and in a lot of cases, we're also approving requests, which then get automatically configuration pushed to our routers, and then emails the requester with the details of the sessions to set up. All automated and all backed up by humans where that's needed. And then monitor and optimize, we have our network partner portal. If you don't have access to that and you're interested, come and find myself or Ian, who's at the back after this. And in there, you can see stats on traffic, you can see stats on product performance. We're making sure we kind of expose those details to our partners so they can get the best experience possible. And at that point, I'm a bit ahead of time, but any questions? Thank you.
You've caught me by surprise there.
Yeah, I heard you saying everyone wanted beer, so
Well, I hate to make this joke again, but I'm loving the taste in shirts, my friend. It's very nice. Right, have we got anybody out there? No, we don't.